Hello and welcome to Reviews. As always, I'm Plume Noir, and even though it says X-Men plus Fantastic Four, or X-Men and Fantastic Four, according to the Indica, it is actually referred to as X-Men slash Fantastic Four. So that's what we're going to go with, X-Men slash Fantastic Four. Now, or did I flip that the other way? Is it Fantastic Four X-Men? No, the X-Men did get top billing in this one. I double checked myself because I was interested in this because I was a big fan. Came out in the mid late 80s. Fantastic Four versus the X-Men. It was a 4-issue limited series, came on the heels of the Mutant Massacre, where several of the X-Men, like Colossus and Kitty Pryde, they got injured really badly. In Kitty Pryde's case, she was stuck in her phased form, which was kind of interesting because back then one of the limits on her power was that she could not breathe when she was phased. So, she would when she would phase, she'd have to hold her breath and she'd have to, unphase to take another breath. But of course, once she was stuck in her phased form, they kind of forgot about her needing to breathe, and I don't think it's ever been brought up since. Now I bring up that miniseries because it's a great miniseries. I really like it. It's got the ending's good on it. I don't know if it's ever been collected. If you can find it, I don't know if it's on Comixology or Marvel Zap. Look it up. Look it up. It's 4 issues. It's all about Kitty Pryde is stuck in her phase form after her injuries, and she's basically losing cohesion, and she's about to just kind of her molecules are drifting apart. She's about to phase out into nothingness. So they go to the Fantastic Four for help, but Doom gets involved. And the entire time, young Franklin Richards keeps having dreams of his father, killing everyone. It's a really good miniseries, but it's funny. I bring this whole title up because the Fantastic Four got top billing in that miniseries, and it comics were kind of weird then. Fantastic Four was still, really good. The X-Men, they only had their one book. Yeah, I know there was New Mutants and, X Factor was around, but it was still basically just one X-Men book. And it was a very simple time. I kind of miss it. But anyway, I love that miniseries, so I was curious to check this one out because the premise of this story is Franklin Richards, if you've been reading the Fantastic Four, and it's been kind of on the downslide, I'm going to be honest, he's losing his powers. Basically, Franklin Richards, is a Omega level mutant. He used to be Tattletale, could kind of see the future, and then, after Secret Wars, he's rebuilding the multiverse. But his powers are basically disappearing, and Reed can't help him. So now it's kind of a reverse where it's almost like he needs to go to the X-Men for help. But he's not going to them for help. What is happening is the other way around. The X-Men, because they're doing this whole Krakoa thing, which I'm waiting for that to wrap up. I think it's gone on a little too long. I really hope that's not the future status quo. Because Franklin is now basically a teenager. He can decide to come to Krakoa on his own. So they're trying to recruit him, take him away from his family, that kind of thing. They know what's best. Okay, fine, fair enough. What I find interesting is this whole change in the mutants and their status. Really haven't seen too much of how that interacts with the other characters, such as, the Fantastic Four. And we do get to see a little bit of that in this book. So I got to give credit to Chip Zdarsky. He is the writer of this book. It starts off with basically a summary of who Franklin Richards is. Growing up, you kind of get this weird thing of, you ever watched the Venture Brothers? You kind of get a Venture Brothers feel from this. I mean, if you've watched the show, you know that there is already the Fantastic Four in there, but you get the whole Jonas Venture thing here. I'm sorry, Rusty Venture. I said the wrong one. Little bit of interest, kind of introducing the characters. Um, Kitty Pryde, I'm sorry, Kate Pryde, which I really hate the thing they're doing where she can't go through the Krakoan portals because they're hinting she's not really a mutant, and that's why she has to do the whole Marauders thing, and yeah, whatever. Um, Basically, Professor X, there's a weird thing where, after having a little bit of a spat with Kid Omega, the Stepford Cuckoos come and tell her that um, Professor X wants to talk to her. Though, if Charles sent the Cuckoos to greet me instead of just reaching out psychically, that means he's busy. Um, okay, his powers to reach out literally do not involve getting up off his ass. It is like the laziest power to reach out and mentally. And you go back through old X-Men books, I mean, he would do it at any inopportune time he could. So, no, he just doesn't want to reach out to you. Um, Kitty, I'm not calling you Kate. The professor's using you, okay? I'm just saying. If he really wanted to talk to you, because he's just sitting around looking at pictures with Magneto. And it looks like Magneto's old costume there. Yeah, but yeah, it's just that it kind of reminds me of his old when he went good. Kind of interesting. I don't know why I looked at that. It looked different, but um, anyway, Professor X, excuse me, just had a little hiccup there. Goes to Kitty because they want to bring Franklin to Krakoa, and they have a history, and they bring this up here. Um, Wait for this to focus. This is where you come in, Catherine. Eric and I know that you and young Franklin have a special history. Out of all of us, he's likely to trust you the most. Are you talking about when you almost died, and Franklin would visit you in Latveria while Victor Von Doom worked on a cure? That was a long time ago for him. I don't know if he'd remember. And yeah, good job, Chip. Actually builds upon this because Franklin, in his tattletale form, was visiting Kitty when she was in her basic tube, and would talk to her and everything. So good job, Chip. Good job bringing this up because when I picked up this issue and I knew this was coming, I kind of thought, okay, they're just going to forget about that 4-issue miniseries. A lot of people have, but it is the one where Kitty gets cured and Doctor Doom wins. It's a good story. It really is a good story. So props to remembering that. So basically, the crux of this issue is that it's going to be a pull. Franklin, come to who you love most. Come on, come to Daddy. No, come to Professor X. Like you would do with your dog. And that is basically what this whole issue is. Franklin is getting upset with his dad that he can't find the cure for why his powers are going away. And, of course, who's he talk to? Reed's other failure. The other one he can't cure. And so the two of them are talking, and Benjamin does say, when Franklin asks him, so why is it exactly the two problems he can't solve are you and me? And of course Ben says, Reed's a good man. He cares about you, about us. If he didn't want to fix either of us, he'd tell us. Because if he didn't, he knows we'd never forgive him. Well, there's been some theories about that Reed actually can fix things, but chooses not to. And so it almost, in light of that, the way that's phrased almost seems like Ben deep down knows. And a good job on here, the art, actually kind of given bags under the thing's eyes. It's hard to draw a thing to have human emotions, other than the most obvious. It's hard to do subtleties, but that, actually a good job on that. So yeah, the X-Men pop up, and we go back to the whole, a fight is immediately about to break out. But the nice thing is when Kitty goes in there, Franklin remembers her and, is really happy to see her, and even calls her Kitty. So things go a little civil. I'm not going to show the whole book. Obviously, I can't. where they're discussing, and Reed is calling the professor out, which is the other part of the book I like, is that we do get to see, some of the other heroes who have worked with the X-Men, um, who know the X-Men, kind of calling them out on this. And, you're acting like you're above humanity, buying us off with gifts of medicine. And Magneto even says, we are above them and above you. Eric is being blunt, but we are the next step in evolution, and we're finally embracing it. So they're making the plea for Franklin to come with the X-Men back to Krakoa. And of course, you get Magneto. Why Magneto had to come, I don't know, because things are going to get out of hand. So you get this great scene of Sue just locking him in one of her force field bubbles, and you do not want to do this, Susan. I don't know why this made me laugh, because that looks so uncomfortable, but that seems just so calm and Magneto-like. And yeah, because Franklin and Kitty, Franklin wants to get out of there. Kitty gets him out of there and tells him that she'll back him up no matter what. And if he chooses to stay with his family, if he chooses to go with Professor X, she'll back him up. She won't force anything. But it turns into kind of a brawl between them. And I'm not going to go any further because there is tension, and obviously, it's a series here, so it's not going to all be resolved in this issue. But it is nice to see the X characters, how they've been separated off to separate themselves. And there's even been a talk, they even call out, Thing calls them out on it. I didn't want to show any more, but there is a great panel about how basically just making a new Genosha is what Professor X is doing. So I think it was Thing who called it out on that. I don't have my notes right next to me. So yeah, I gotta give, Chip Zdarsky can do really good work, and he shows a love of the history, actually bringing up the original Fantastic Four versus the X-Men. Good job on that. I really did like that, because it does show, these two characters have a history. And how weird is that, he was just a little kid, and now, he's closer to her age, even though Kitty is now, what is she? She's like 21. She's somewhere around there. And he's like 15. So it's a little bit closer. Actually, when you think about it, their age difference is not too different from Colossus and Kitty Pryde when they were, dating, which, they were. And until it got a little weird. And I think even Chris Claremont had to bend the pressure. But, yeah, there's about the same difference. Just pointing that out. One thing I will say is it becomes really obvious when you look through credits. Don't do this, by the way. Don't do just a space down to a square. It makes it look like he redacted a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of ink assists in this book. So we do have the Dotsons, penciling and inking, but there's a bunch of ink assists, and it does show when you look at, various panels like this versus, where's the splash page? Yeah, with Storm, and yeah, between the two panels, I know people make jokes about the whole tracer thing, but it looks like certain things were started and then filled in by the ink assists, not just other pages. It makes the book a little bit uneven when you look at some of this, even from panel to panel. So, and I've always said I'm a fan of the Dodsons. I do like their work, and something just seemed off with the art, and I think it was those ink assists. I don't think they were doing, like, can't go too much farther, but full pages, but it does look like some parts really change with how heavily they're inked. Even just between these two, it looks like there's a difference there. So, so yeah, I enjoyed this. I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this. And that's not something I say with a lot of Marvel books. Usually it's when they do a series like this, it's like, maybe I'll pick it up. But you're hitting characters that are close to my heart. So, and you're bringing up some nostalgia, always a good sign. What would I actually rate this? I actually didn't think about a rating on this. So if I was to assign a rating, I'm actually kind of running through the play in my head here. I would probably go 1 o'clock. Yep, a weak 1 o'clock, but I would still go 1 o'clock. I enjoyed it. Um, I like they're showing the interaction, and they're showing neither side is in the right, which is good because a lot of times when Marvel tries to do that, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to show both sides, but this is the side we think is the correct one. No, they're showing, Reed is one of his problems is he's too much of a scientist, and he even acknowledges he needs to be more of a father. Um, Reed also says, hey, maybe Franklin would go to Krakoa. He's growing up, he's still a young man. Maybe he would go there in his own time. But, Professor, you're on a timetable, you're pushing this, and that makes me wonder what you're up to. So, um, and I'm not a big fan of superheroes fighting each other, especially heroes that have worked together for many years, have helped one another for many years. Even the fact that, you know, the X-Men came to Reed Richards for help. They should have pulled that on him. Saying, hey, remember that time, we helped you? Well, actually, the problem is Reed didn't really help Kitty Pryde. Doctor Doom did. Um, so I guess maybe that's why Reed's not bringing it up. But anyway, Reed's helped everyone enough that you would think they would give him um, a little bit of professional courtesy. But maybe that's why they sat down and had tea. If it was any other parent, they would just grab the kid in the middle of the night and whisk him off to Krakoa. So anyway, I enjoyed this. But then again, I find myself enjoying Chip's work more than the average Marvel writer. Um, so good job on him. 1 o'clock, and I will be back. Got a few more issues, trying to get back on the regular schedule after this insane past few weeks here. I do have that Spider-Man Double Trouble. I know it's a kid's book, but I've been following it and been enjoying it. So that will be coming up here soon, as well as a few other things. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.